वो वक्त आ चुका है कि हम प्रेसिडेंट डोनाल्ड ट्रंप को नोबेल पीस प्राइज दे ही दें, क्योंकि ही इज द वन टू स्टॉप ऑल वॉर्स, एंड ऑल वॉर्स, राइट? रशिया यूक्रेन हुआ नहीं है, बट ठीक है, इजराइल ईरान हो, या थाईलैंड कंबोडिया हो, या म्यांमार में सिविल वॉर हो, या इंडिया पाकिस्तान, क्योंकि उनको चाहिए नोबेल पीस प्राइज। और जब नहीं मिल रहा है तो वो सैंक्शंस और ट्रेड की धमकी देके कह रहे हैं कि भाई अब तो 50% क्या, उससे ज्यादा भी हम कर देंगे, क्योंकि आप बात नहीं मान रहे हो। टाइमिंग देखो, इतने साल से, इतने महीने से इंडिया रशिया के ऑयल खरीद रहा है, तब हाँ, they had some discomfort but never threatened us with sanctions. बट हमारे प्रधानमंत्री पार्लियामेंट में क्या बोल दिया कि नहीं, प्रेसिडेंट ट्रंप ने निगोशिएट नहीं किया, मीडिएट नहीं किया, वो तो पाकिस्तान ने हमसे मांगा तो हमने सीज फायर डिक्लेयर कर दिया, तब से वो खफा है हमसे, सैंक्शन पे सैंक्शन, टैरिफ पे टैरिफ। क्यों? क्योंकि हम रशिया से क्रूड ऑयल खरीद रहे हैं। रियल रीजन अगर हमें बता ही दे कि नहीं भाई हमें क्रेडिट दे दो, तो हम दे देते और इतना प्रॉब्लम ही नहीं होता। वो क्रिस्टीन फेयर है, एक यूएस के पॉलिसी एक्सपर्ट है, उन्होंने कहा है कि इफ यू इलेक्ट अ क्लाउन एक्सपेक्ट अ सर्कस, और आजकल यही हो रहा है। तो आज अराउंड द वर्ल्ड जुलाई एडिशन में हम जियोपॉलिटिक्स को क्या समझें, हम ट्रंप को समझेंगे, और वो बहुत मुश्किल है, क्योंकि देखा जाए तो धमकी पे धमकी चल रहा है। और जैसे कि चाइना ने कहा है कि इफ यू गिव इंच टू अ बुली ही विल टेक अ माइल, और एग्जैक्टली वही हो रहा है। तो हम समझने वाले हैं कि क्या चल रहा है, व्हाट इज डोनाल्ड ट्रंप अप टू, व्हाट इज चाइना अप टू। एंड इस पूरे लंबे से एपिसोड में, क्योंकि ये एपिसोड पूरा जुलाई को कवर करने वाला है, इस पूरे लंबे से एपिसोड के एंड में, लास्ट के कुछ 15-20 मिनट में, हम इंडियन प्राइम मिनिस्टर्स विजिट टू ब्राजील, अर्जेंटीना एंड मालदीव्स, जो कि बायलैटरल रिलेशंस के लिए इंपॉर्टेंट है, उसको कवर करने वाले हैं। तो आपको पूरा जियोपॉलिटिक्स समझने के बाद ही हम बायलैटरल में पहुंचेंगे, और एग्जाम ओरिएंटेड जो अप्रोच रहेगा अब हम वहां पे कंप्लीट करेंगे। एज यूजुअल आप मुझसे जुड़ सकते हो टेलीग्राम और इंस्टाग्राम में। टेलीग्राम प्रेफरेबल है, मैं आपको ये जो पीपीटी यूज कर रही हूँ, क्योंकि काफी कंटेंट है इस पीपीटी में, मैं शेयर कर दूंगी अपने टेलीग्राम चैनल पे, ताकि आप रिवाइज करते रहे, अपने नोट्स में ऐड करते रहे। कोई भी डाउट हो एज यूजुअल फील फ्री टू रीच आउट टू मी। आते हैं सबसे पहले न्यूज में कि प्रेसिडेंट ट्रंप इंपोजेस 50% डबल टैरिफ्स ऑन इंडिया थ्रू न्यू एग्जीक्यूटिव ऑर्डर। अब ये सभी को पता ही है, कोई मतलब द एंटायर न्यूज़पेपर इज ऑल अबाउट इट, कि इंडिया पे पहले टैरिफ लगाया गया था क्योंकि ट्रेड डील नहीं हो रहा था, एंड सेकंड जो नए एग्जीक्यूटिव ऑर्डर में और 25% ऐड कर दिया गया है, वो इसलिए किया गया है क्योंकि इंडिया अभी भी रशिया से क्रूड ऑयल खरीद रहा है। कहा गया है कि इंडिया इज फ्यूलिंग द रशियन वॉर मशीन। इंडिया ने इसके जवाब में 2 स्टेटमेंट्स रिलीज किया है। पहला स्टेटमेंट में इंडिया ने कहा है कि भाई दिस इज कंप्लीटली अनजस्टिफाइड, क्योंकि यूएस अभी भी पैलेडियम, यूरेनियम खरीद रहा है रशिया से। यूएस क्यों, यूरोपियन यूनियन भी तो खरीद रहा है, तो व्हाई सिंगल आउट इंडिया? इसका कोई जवाब नहीं आया, बल्कि बोला गया कि नहीं हम तो सैंक्शंस डालेंगे। ठीक है, फाइनली जब आ गया, टैरिफ बढ़ाया गया, 50% डबल टैरिफ किया गया, तो उसके बाद इंडिया ने सिर्फ कहा है कि इट इज अनरीजनेबल, अनजस्टिफाइड। एंड इसी के साथ वी हैव नॉट हैड अ वर्ड विथ यूएस। हमने कोई भी कदम नहीं लिया है जो कि कंस्ट्रूड हो पाए कि वी आर बेगिंग फॉर सम रिलीफ। इंस्टेड आवर प्राइम मिनिस्टर मेड अ स्टेटमेंट कि ही हैज टू वर्क एंड इंश्योर दैट जो सेक्टर्स इंपैक्ट होने वाले हैं, जैसे कि टेक्सटाइल, जैसे कि डायमंड, उन पर्टिकुलर सेक्टर्स को किस तरीके से बोल्स्टर किया जाए, स्ट्रॉन्ग बनाया जाए, ताकि ये जो डबल टैरिफ से इतना इंपैक्ट ना करे। इफ यू रिमेंबर G20 के जो हमारे इंडिया में हुआ था, उस प्रेसिडेंसी में जो शेरपा थे अमिताभ कांत, उन्होंने भी कहा है कि ये फैंटास्टिक अपॉर्चुनिटी है इंडिया के लिए। इसे क्राइसिस मत समझो, क्योंकि अगर इस क्राइसिस में हमने अपॉर्चुनिटी को देखा, ढूंढा, उसको डेवलप किया, तो इंडिया विल नो लॉन्गर लुक एट अमेरिका, इट विल नो लॉन्गर नीड द अमेरिकन मार्केट्स। सो दिस इज व्हाट आवर पर्सपेक्टिव इज, एंड आई थिंक दिस इज द करेक्ट नेशनलिस्ट पर्सपेक्टिव। क्योंकि अगर इंडिया ने ये स्टैंड ले लिया आज अदर ग्लोबल साउथ कंट्रीज जो इंडिया की तरफ देख रहा है एज अ लीडर, दे आर सीइंग, दे आर ऑब्जर्विंग, दे विल अंडरस्टैंड कि हम भी ये कर सकते हैं. रिमेंबर एट दिस पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम चाइना के साथ नेगोशिएशन चल रहा है, कंक्लूजन नहीं आया पर चल रहा है, क्योंकि जो ट्रेड वॉर था वो 90 डे पॉज के बाद फिर से रिज्यूम होने से पहले टॉक शुरू हो चुका है. जापान ने 15% मान लिया है, कुछ और कंट्रीज जो है दे हैव ऑलरेडी एक्सेप्टेड. सो जो अलायंस है, यूएस के जो अलाइज हैं उन्होंने मानना शुरू कर दिया है. बट ब्रिक्स, चाहे वो इंडिया हो चाहे वो ब्राजील हो, वी आर स्टैंडिंग स्ट्रॉन्ग. बल्कि हमने बोला है कि हमें कॉल नहीं करना है. ब्राजीलियन प्रेसिडेंट ने बोला है कि आई डोंट हैव टू कॉल प्रेसिडेंट ट्रम्प, आई विल कॉल प्राइम मिनिस्टर मोदी इंस्टेड. दिस इज व्हाट विल बी to finally address this bullying, because this is not a world war, this is clear cut hegemonic bullying. जो चीज इतने साल से अमेरिका नहीं कर पाया कि भाई अपना कंट्रीज को अगेंस्ट नहीं कर पाया, सबने, नाउ एवरीबडी इज रशिंग टुवर्ड्स चाइना. क्यों? बिकॉज ऑफ दिस हेजेमोनिक बुलिंग. दिस इज नॉट अ शो ऑफ पावर. इस तरीके से पावर शो करने से आप ऑपोजिशन को ज्यादा स्ट्रॉन्ग कर रहे हो. Countries are now going to go towards China. Countries are now going to look into partnership with other countries, not with America, because this kind of bullying is not acceptable. Even the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres ने भी कहा है कि भाई this is not acceptable and not good, or it actually has used a better word, it's inconclusive for international peace. He said this is definitely going to trigger more conflicts. And this is not acceptable by the hegemon. So all of this indicates that there is a backlash against this bullying. But again, Donald Trump and his government has closed their ears. कान वान बंद करके वो सबको धमकी दिए जा रहे हैं. बात नहीं सुनना, कल से 50%, बात नहीं सुन रहा है उसमें 15%. इस तरीके से बुलिंग हो रहा है और कुछ नहीं. इसीलिए मैंने कहा ना, नोबेल पीस प्राइज दे के बात को खत्म करते हैं. But countries, right? I think we should just give it to him. Anyway, coming back to the news, जैसे कि मैंने बोला कि पहले से 25% था, बट फाइनली और 25% दिया गया है फॉर परचेजिंग रशियन एनर्जी. एंड दिस इज बीइंग सेड दैट ये हो रहा है क्योंकि रशिया को प्रेशराइज किया जाए कि दे शुड कम टू द नेगोशिएटिंग टेबल. लेट मी कम टू द नेक्स्ट पार्ट ऑफ दिस एंटायर न्यूज. तो सबसे पहले 31 जुलाई में डोनाल्ड ट्रंप यूएस प्रेसिडेंट ने ऑथराइज किया था ये न्यू इंपोर्ट ड्यूटीज, क्योंकि डील नहीं हो पा रही थी. 30 जुलाई को इन हिज सोशल मीडिया दे हैव सेड दैट ही क्रिटिसाइज्ड इंडिया बाय राइटिंग, लेट मी हाईलाइट दिस, he criticized India by writing they have always bought a vast majority of their military equipment from Russia. Remember जब हम S-400 खरीद रहे थे, हमें काटसा का सैंक्शन दिखाया गया था, डराया गया था, पर हमने तभी भी S-400 खरीदा और काटसा के सैंक्शंस हम पे नहीं लगे थे. तो यही बात हो रही है यहाँ पे. एंड Russia's largest buyer of energy. So this is what Donald Trump had written. Now, apart from India, for Canada, he had said that 35% duties लगाया जाएगा, which is around 5% of the exported goods to the US from Canada likely to come under the ambit of 35%. Why? Because Ottawa, Canada is the problem. हम आते हैं उसमें भी. ब्राजील पे 50% टैरिफ लगाया गया है because of the current Brazilian government indicting the erstwhile president Bolsonaro. तो उनके डोमेस्टिक में इंटरफेयर करते हुए कहा जा रहा है कि भाई आपने जो प्रीवियस प्रेसिडेंट के साथ कर रहे हो वो गलत कर रहे हो, इसीलिए 50% सैंक्शन. नहीं बात मानोगे तो 50% सैंक्शन. नाउ आई वांट टू कम टू टू टर्म्स हियर. नाउ एक होता है लिबरलिज्म या लिबरलाइजेशन की बात कर सकते हो, राइट? लिबरलाइजेशन, व्हाट इज दिस वर्ड मीन? बेसिकली मीनिंग फ्री मार्केट, फ्री ट्रेड. You're basically reducing protectionism. You are encouraging more and more trade movement. तो पहले जो if you remember the trade barriers पे बात हो रही थी, reduction of protectionism पे बात हो रही थी, and this is where the deal was being discussed. चाहे वो ब्राजील के साथ हो या इंडिया के साथ हो, क्योंकि बात जब ट्रेड टॉक्स हो रहे थे, that is what the entire focus was, to reduce the protectionism in the dairy and the agricultural sectors. अब बात बदल के नए चैलेंज पे आ गया है, which is directly dictating terms to India's sovereignty and Brazilian sovereignty. हमें डिक्टेट किया जा रहा है किससे क्रूड ऑयल खरीदना है, नहीं खरीदना है. ब्राजील को बोला जा रहा है कि भाई आप अपने एक्स प्रेसिडेंट को ऐसे इंडिक्ट नहीं कर सकते हो. दिस इज डायरेक्टली अ केस ऑफ न्यू इंपीरियलिज्म. दिस इज नॉट एक्सेप्टेबल. Liberalization, yes, free trade deals, talks, all of that could be acceptable. This, not really. For this, I will really encourage you to read an article by Pratap Bhanu Mehta in Indian Express, which he has written beautifully on the idea of, on the attack of imperialism, the neo-imperialism. Excellent article. Okay, coming back to Brazil. So as I said, कि ये इसके वजह से 50% tariff लगाया गया है on Brazil. Next, if we come down to India, Trump's complaint क्या है कि energy sector में. Numbers देख लेते हैं. After 2022, India emerged as one of the largest importers of Russian oil. For the financial year 2024-2025, India on an average imported 4.88 barrels per day. Further, close to 49% of the stakes in India's Nayara, which is country's second largest oil refinery, are with Russia's state oil company Rosneft. अब आते हैं कनाडा के लिए. ट्रम्प्स कंप्लेंट ऑन फेंटेनिल स्मगलिंग थ्रू द यूएस कनाडा बॉर्डर. इसके वजह से दे हैव इंक्रीज्ड टैरिफ ऑन कनाडा. अब थर्ड आते हैं ट्रम्प्स सपोर्ट फॉर बोल्सोनारो इन ब्राजील. इन जनवरी 2023, protesters in favor of Bolsonaro attempted to barge into Brazil's Congress, Supreme Court and President's residence. The protesters were unhappy with Bolsonaro losing the elections and wanted to reverse. Very similar to what had happened when Trump had lost in 2021. So this is what, if you see a repeat. Trump ने क्या लिखा है? Brazil is doing a terrible thing on the treatment of their former president. If you remember, last year यही होने वाला था President Trump के against पे. हुआ नहीं. थोड़े मतलब just because of some Supreme Court judges, it did not happen. But other than that, he would also be indicted. Because he had, and we all know that, the way he encouraged his supporters to come into the Capitol Hill. Okay, moving on. Let us come down to few announcements. So, Rakhi sale is on all courses in Shriram's IS. If you want, it is there for optional. If you want, it is there for the 1-year foundation course. Actually, on all courses starting from second, you have a maximum discount, and for that you need to call up this particular number. Yes, number पे आप call करिए, connect करिए, and you will get to know the exact details of the sale. Next, we come down to US-EU trade deal. Okay, what is US-EU trade deal? So all धमकी वमकी देने के बाद finally US और EU के बीच में trade deal हो गया. समझते हैं क्या हुआ था. So 25 जुलाई में डोनाल्ड ट्रंप ने कहा there is a 50-50 chance that the US would reach a trade agreement. 27th में एक trade deal finally हुआ, which he described as the biggest deal ever made. On 28th July, various European leaders welcomed the deal. However, there were some, for example, you had Macron, you had Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni of course, stated that the agreement ensured stability but was incomplete with a number of elements missing in particularly sensitive sectors such as pharmaceuticals and the automobile industry. But as I said, Macron has called it a dark day because Europe had resigned itself to submission. The European Union में ही, there were divisions. Countries like France completely rejected and said that यार ये क्या submissive अपने attitude रखा हुआ है. On the other hand, Meloni, that is Italy, said that there is, a balance. अच्छा है, stability लेके आएगा, but कुछ sectors missing है, जैसे pharmaceuticals and automobile. Next, if we come down to what is the background, 12 जुलाई में ट्रंप ने 30% tariffs impose करने की बात की थी on the EU, warning that any retaliatory tariff would be added on top of the 30% base rate. So, 14 July, EU leaders responded by preparing counter tariffs. targeting US goods worth 72 billion euro. On 18 July, Trump threatened to impose tariff of 15 to 20% on all goods imported from the European Union. The European Union and the US share the world's largest bilateral trade relation, with a trade volume of 1.6 trillion euro in 2023. Second बात आते हैं Trump-EU relationship पे. President Trump has advocated for ensuring US allies, including the European Union, contribute to their partnership with the US on equal terms. A recurring point of contention has been the imbalanced nature of the trade relationship between both economies. In January 2025, Trump highlighted that the EU has been very unfair and that there are some very big complaints with the EU, calling it nastier than China. Third, internal rift. Member states within the EU remain divided. जैसे कि मैंने कहा, France and Spain pushed for a tougher approach, while high export volume countries like Germany and Netherlands urged caution. Italy was a balanced approach. Now, fourth is the EU's dependence on China. 100% of heavy rare earth elements in the EU are supplied by China, including terbium, samarium, and the dysprosium. China is a major supplier of laptops, solar panels, and lithium-ion batteries consisting of materials like lithium, cobalt, graphite, and gallium that are essential for EU's digital and clean energy transition. Thus, there are concerns within Europe that failure to reach a trade deal with the US would result in Chinese exporters pivoting towards unexplored market segments in Europe. So that is more dependence on China. Okay. Next, I just want to come down to the final implications of this. First, the impact on the economy of the US and EU. So if you realize it, what I've done is I've created it like an answer. कि हुआ क्या, उसका impact क्या है, and implications last में. So if there's a question also, or if you try to write answers, it is there in that format which you can just pick up and write. ठीक है? For those who are not writing examples, it is, exams, it is still better to have this structured understanding so that you have a focus on the what happened, what is the implication, and then क्या है. वही format को follow कर रहे हैं हम लोग. First, implication की बात करें, the impact on the economy of the US and EU. Tariffs imposed on imported EU goods will increase production costs and commodity prices in the US. These inflationary pressures can reduce purchasing power and overall consumption, thereby worsening the cost of living crisis. Further, European goods will become more expensive and less competitive in the American market, potentially reducing EU exports. Low export volume will reduce production and wages, resulting in a marginal reduction in the EU's GDP. On the other hand, the EU's decision to drop tariffs on US goods will provide EU consumers and businesses with affordable goods. US exports with duty-free access to European markets will ensure a positive outlook for manufacturing and employment in the United States. However, high input costs due to expensive imports of raw materials from the EU could limit substantial gains. Second is the implication for EU-China relations. The EU-US deal reshapes EU's economic ties with China. While the EU has sought to align itself strategically with the US, diversifying the supply of critical raw materials is an incremental process. If the US fails to meet European demand, the EU will move towards China. ये obvious बात है. Okay, next, उसी news को example की तरह I put this particular news, which is Chinese automakers surge in Europe showcases record growth in market share despite 4.4% decline in overall registration. So 23rd July में data from J2 Dynamics कहता है Chinese automakers in Europe gained record market share despite a 4.4% year-on-year drop to 1.25 million in car registration. In the first half of 2025, Chinese brands nearly doubled their combined share of the European market to 5.1%, and registrations of Chinese vehicles have increased by 91%. Tesla has recorded the second biggest decline. So that is what it indicates, that अगर ये deal, जो deal अभी हुआ है, if it does not fructify, it doesn't give you the result, there will be a pivot, जो हम लोगों ने decoupling की बात की थी, there will be a pivot towards China, and already it can be seen that Chinese automobiles are already making the waves in Europe. Exactly what Europe was trying to do steadily, America made it worse. Okay, we come down to the next, again, similar line. Chinese president and European Union heads meet for the 25th China-EU summit to further bilateral ties. So on 24th July, China's President Xi Jinping meets the President of the European Council and the President of the European Commission in Beijing. This is part of the 25th China-EU summit, marking the 50th anniversary of diplomatic ties between the two entities. Now, President of the European Commission, Ursula, before the trip said, touchdown in Beijing as we mark 50 years of ties between Europe and China. This summit presents an opportunity to both advance and rebalance our relation. Now, if you remember, there was a focus on de-linking and there was a focus on de-risking. That is, to reduce the dependency on China. But with Trump playing the heavy card, with Trump coming in and going for a trade deal and all of that, there will be an impact, of course. And if it doesn't, the implications are as bad as what is being predicted. It is obvious that the European Union would need other partners, and China is right there as a partner, right? So ये delinking और decoupling हो रहा था, de-risking हो रहा था, वो सब चला गया. अब बात हो रही है rebalancing की. See, that is what happened. Now, China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs stated that both China and EU are at a critical juncture as they confront new opportunities and challenges based on past achievements. The summit aims to further bilateral ties between the two. What was discussed: trade relations, rare earth, trade deficit of the EU, climate change, EVs, and the overcapacity of Chinese industries. Okay, next we come down to the US Department of State declaring the Resistance Front as a foreign terrorist organization. तो एक तरफ हम पे 50% डाल दिया है टैरिफ, उसके साथ साथ 17 जुलाई को the Resistance Front, which is the responsible terrorist organization for the Pahalgam attack, उसको foreign terrorist organization designate किया गया and especially designated global terrorist भी बोला गया है. तो US Secretary of State Marco Rubio ने कहा है that this action against the TRF demonstrates the Trump administration's commitment to protecting our national security interests, countering terrorism, and enforcing President Trump's call for justice for the Pahalgam attack. So that is what US has done in response to the Pahalgam attack. Okay, moving on. Prime Minister Modi and UK Prime Minister, that's Keir Starmer, signed a landmark free trade agreement. आराम से सालों के negotiations के बाद there was a good deal. इसी तरीके से डील किया जाता है, टाइम लगता है, अच्छा है, दोनों पार्टनर्स खुश होते हैं. ऐसा नहीं कि नहीं करोगे तो बस कल से 50% डाल देंगे. इस तरीके से यूरोपियन यूनियन जैसा गुस्सा रहेगा एंड चले जाएंगे चाइना से मिलने के लिए. यही होने वाला है. अब आगे भी दूसरे कंट्रीज भी यही अपनाएंगे. आते हैं what has happened between India and UK. So there was a landmark free trade agreement saying that this will raise living standards on both sides. Prime Minister Modi said it's a blueprint for our shared responsibility, right? So what is the India-UK FTA? Under the deal, Britain agreed to grant duty-free access to 99% of Indian exports, while India reduced tariffs on nearly 90% of UK goods, including luxury items such as Scotch whisky, cars, textiles, and medical devices. The agreement is projected to boost bilateral trade by 34 billion USD annually by 2040 and 6 billion pound in investments and new jobs across UK. The new leaders also discussed deepening cooperation in defense, climate, technology, and education. Okay, the next news is about the long-term European Union budget 2028-2034. So 16 July में European Commission proposed a 2 trillion euro European Union budget for the next 7 years. That is an increase of 800 billion euro from the existing 1.2 trillion euro. The EU budget was described as the most ambitious EU budget ever, and it would address issues like migration, global competition, digital regulation, and Russian aggression. Now, with this new budget, it is aiming for strategic flexibility, but apart from all of this, it is important we understand all of this is talking European Union's move towards creating a stronger defense against Russia. ये पूरा का पूरा गेम इसी के वजह से है. Because all of these जो problems बोले गए ना, माइग्रेशन कमान पहले से था, डिजिटल रेगुलेशन पहले से चल रहा है बातचीत. इसके लिए they are not going to spend 2 trillion euros. And other countries, like basically who is paying for it? Germany, right? And Germany is really scared about increasing Russian aggression. उन्होंने खुद का डोमेस्टिक बजट बढ़ा के रखा है, डिफेंस स्पेंडिंग बढ़ा के रखा है, ताकि कल अगर रशिया अग्रेशन दिखाएगा तो किस तरीके से हैंडल किया जाए, राइट? सो ऑब्वियस बात है, ये पूरा का पूरा जो बजट बढ़ रहा है वो रशिया के अगेंस्ट ही बढ़ रहा है, रशिया के अगेंस्ट स्ट्रैटेजिक डिफेंस करने के लिए बढ़ रहा है. एंड ये सबको समझ में आ चुका है कि अमेरिका पे भरोसा नहीं किया जा सकता है, क्योंकि कल जिस तरीके से यूक्रेन को किया गया है उस तरीके से किसी और कंट्री को भी किया जा सकता है. दे कैन बी अ मिनरल डील टू गिव पेट्रियट्स, राइट? सो इस तरीके से rather than being pushed to the corner and then being negotiated, these countries have taken up कि भाई हम पहले से बजट बढ़ा के खुद का ही सिक्योरिटी देख लेते हैं. That is what is happening. Okay. Now I just wanted a few more news, then I'll just come to one word that I want to talk about. France's defense spending to double by 64 billion by 2027. So 14 जुलाई में BBC ने रिपोर्ट किया है कि फ्रांस के जो प्रेसिडेंट है इमैनुअल मैक्रोन, उन्होंने अनाउंस किया है सिग्निफिकेंट इंक्रीज इन डिफेंस स्पेंडिंग. सो मैक्रोन हैज प्रपोज्ड रेजिंग द डिफेंस बजट by 3.5 billion euros in 2026 and 3 billion euros in 2027, aiming to double it from 32 billion euro in 2017 and 64 billion by 2027. He said, to be free in this world, you must be feared. To be feared, you must be powerful. Now, this is what is happening. I want to just point two things that is happening. One is that there is a transatlantic decoupling. What does this word mean? Let me come here. Transatlantic decoupling. You are seeing US versus EU coming in. Earlier, European Union, they basically took a stand that we are going to focus on climate, we are going to focus on human rights, because US was giving us the strategic protection. So because of which you did not see European Union spending a lot on these things. They were instead spending on matters for the welfare of humanity. I'm not saying that they were holier than thou, but they were definitely spending more on public welfare than any other country, including the hegemon. However, with the coming of President Trump and then his trade war and the trade bullying that happened, it became very clear that two things. European Union cannot depend on America for its strategic protection. नहीं हो सकता है, चाहे वो NATO का हिस्सा ही क्यों ना हो, क्योंकि to initiate a NATO attack, members have to agree, which means US has to agree. And just the way it suddenly refused to give weapons to Ukraine and suddenly said that Putin is a great guy, he will talk sense. These things made them wary कि कल अगर जरूरत पड़े और यूएस ने कहा कि नहीं सपोर्ट करेंगे तो हम कहां फंसेंगे. It is much better to be self-sufficient. In the bid to be self-sufficient, there is a decoupling happening. ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, क्योंकि पहले का जो यूएस और यूरोपियन यूनियन की दोस्ती थी, ट्रांसअटलांटिक दोस्ती थी, वो धीरे धीरे अभी क्रम्बल डाउन कर रहा है, right? So that is the reason why you need to focus on the decoupling. Second thing is the rise of multiple poles. पहले हम देखते थे कि जो मल्टीपोलर वर्ल्ड ऑर्डर है उसमें इंडिया, साउथ अमेरिका, साउथ अफ्रीका, ब्राजील, इन कंट्रीज का इमर्जेंस, चाइना, they are emerging as centers of power. We never calculated European Union as a center of power. Why? Because European Union, again strategically, was always seen with the hegemon. तो वो एक हम लोग काउंट करते थे. But now, because of the decoupling, you see European Union or the countries inside European Union deciding to be a center of power. France is no longer dependent on other countries. They are individually meeting. So Macron, if you remember last month, was on a visit to many countries in South China Sea. He visited ASEAN countries. He was in India so many times. He was there in Africa. So basically, when he's meeting these countries, he wants to have a presence of France in the Indo-Pacific. Second, this defense budget going up. It's not just France, even Germany. So Germany is also doing that. Why? Because they realize हमें center of power बनना है. जब individual countries इस पर्टिकुलर आर्म्स रेस में चले जाएंगे, इस पर्टिकुलर आर्म्स बैलेंस ऑफ पावर में जाएंगे, ऑटोमेटिकली ये जो कंसेप्ट है, सुप्रा नेशनल कंसेप्ट है यूरोपियन यूनियन का, इट इज गोइंग टू बी चैलेंज्ड. देयर विल बी डिविजन्स, देयर विल बी cleavages coming in on matters, which is where the idea, the values of European Union will be questioned. आज तो ट्रेड डील मान लिया है, but France in the near future will not accept to any of these kind of bullying. The way France is already reacting, it's already buying weapons, it's already trying to have its own autonomy from the European Union, things are going to be very different. European Union is, if I have to put in words, it's a matter of time before it crumbles. ये cooperation खत्म होने वाला है. Why? Because countries are aspiring. They can't depend on each other anymore. And this is exactly what happened with ASEAN. It is a story across cooperations and all triggered by one man and his policies. Right? So this is what I wanted to highlight. Okay. Next news that we would want to come in is the US-Pakistan deal. And this was the most funniest, news coming in. So on 31st July, the US-Pakistan reached a trade deal to lower tariff, okay, and increase investments. But apart from that, they also work towards developing their massive oil reserves. I wonder where these oil reserves are in Pakistan, because even if there is, let's say there is massive oil reserves in Pakistan, absolutely massive, it is bound to be in Baloch area. Baloch area is already being developed by China, the CPEC. Pakistan is playing a very dangerous game by trying to balance China and US in Baloch area, which is already seen an insurgency movement, a separatist movement. That is what is happening. So forget the deal. वो deal तो बात की बात है, वो तो deal ना भी हो तो IMF लोन दे ही देता. वो deal में ऐसा है क्या? चलो, but massive oil reserves. I really wonder कौन strategy बनाता है और बलूचिस्तान का होने क्या वाला है. But चलो, we will keep watching this in this particular episode. चलो आगे आते हैं यूएस एंड चाइना टैरिफ नेगोशिएशंस. तो ट्रेड वॉर के बाद यूएस एंड चाइना ने डायलॉग शुरू कर दिया है स्टॉकहोम में, जो इकोनॉमिक इश्यूज था उसको लेके. द मीटिंग डिड नॉट रिजल्ट इन एनी मेजर आउटकम्स. बोथ साइड्स अग्रीड टू अ 90-day extension and China seeked a reduction of US tariffs, export controls, directing its efforts towards reaching a durable tariff agreement with the US by 12th August. ऐसा कुछ हुआ नहीं है. It is reported that China has a strong negotiating hand considering its dominance of global supply chains in terms of rare earth minerals and magnets, which are being used in the most commercial goods. Chief economist Cyprus Dalla Rubia highlighted that China's non-dependence on the US for security, unlike the European Union, has enabled it to drag tariff talks for a long time. The development comes after US finalized a trade deal with Japan and amid the 15% tariffs on most EU goods, exports to the US. So अभी EU के साथ हो गया, जापान के साथ हो गया, चाइना के साथ बातचीत चल रहा है, और हाँ हमारे साथ क्या बात करने वाले हैं, टैरिफ्स लगा ही दिया है. आते हैं नेक्स्ट. President Putin is going to visit India to strengthen their ties of friendship, says National Security Advisor Ajit Doval. So Russian President Putin would visit India by the end of 2025. And this is coming up, of course, amidst the news of US imposing 50% tariffs on India. During the visit, the summit-led meetings would take place. The Russian Security Council Secretary, Shoigu, said that the relations were linked by strong time-tested ties of friendship. He said it is important to strengthen the special privileged strategic partnership with India and to form an active cooperation to lead the world order and face modern threats. NSA Ajit Doval said, we have a very special long-term relationship and we greatly value our strategic partnership. So basically, partnership hai, and he's going to come and visit India. Expect some good deals coming out of it. Okay. Russia-China naval drill in the Sea of Japan. And in this drill, they destroyed an enemy submarine. Mock destroyed. Okay. So the following US deployment of 2 nuclear submarines near Moscow, an anti-submarine exercise was conducted in the Sea of Japan by Russia's Navy along with China's Navy. The ministry said, as a result of effective joint actions, the enemy submarine was promptly detected and mock destroyed. हमने detect भी कर लिया कहाँ पे है, हमने mock destroy किया. mock मतलब खेल में destroy किया. But कल अगर ज़्यादा आप लोग दिक्कत करोगे तो हम attack कर सकते हैं. That is what it is signaling. After practicing anti-submarine tasks, the crews of the Russian and Chinese ships thanked each other. Of course, they will thank each other, right? In 2022, both countries signed a no-limit strategic partnership, and this exercise is part of the Russia-China naval drill, which is to be held. Okay. Next, China and the Yarlung Dam, right? एकदम Great Bend के पास बना रहा है. Great Bend के पास China बना रहा है. One of the biggest hydropower dams. So on 19 July, China's Premier Li Qiang announced the inauguration of the construction of the world's largest hydropower dam in Tibet. The dam consists of 5 cascade hydropower stations with the capacity to produce 300 billion kilowatt hours of electricity annually. It will be built at an estimated cost of about 170 billion USD. Assuming it takes 10 years for construction to complete, the project can add up to 16.7 billion to China's GDP growth for a single year. However, India and Bangladesh have highlighted concern about dam's potential water supply and environmental impact on millions of people living downstream of the Yarlung Tsangpo River, which becomes the Brahmaputra River as it leaves Tibet. Earlier, in January 2025, a spokesman from India's Ministry of External Affairs stated that India has persistently expressed its concerns to the Chinese side over mega projects on rivers in their territory, claiming that the Chinese side has been urged to ensure that the interests of downstream states of the Brahmaputra are not harmed. So, why have I put this? Of course, it is important for the bilateral relation, but just observe, we are having a problem with China. There is talks going on border talks going on, right? That there will be de-escalation and disengagement in the border areas. We are resuming Kailash Mansarovar Yatra. Flights have been resumed. Visas are being given. Soft power, everything is being done. Because of the way US is behaving, China and well as India and as well as the other BRICS countries, including Russia, there is a synergy coming in. But amidst that synergy, there is a conflict going on. Right? So it is not always, everything cannot be great. We cannot trust India. Because I know there will be a question. कि मैम, क्या अब इंडिया को या क्या अब एलिफेंट और ड्रैगन को टैंगो करना चाहिए? अरे नहीं करना चाहिए यार. कितने बार सीखे हुए. चाइना को कभी नहीं ट्रस्ट करना चाहिए. यूएस को भी नहीं करना चाहिए. वो तो अलग बात है. पर चाइना को तो कभी नहीं करना चाहिए क्योंकि चाइना को करोगे तो दिक्कत है. चाइना को जितने बार ट्रस्ट किया है, हमें धोखा ही मिला है. चाहे वो 1962 हो, चाहे वो गलवान हो, चाहे वो तवांग हो, कभी भी नहीं ट्रस्ट करना चाहिए. So as long as it is suiting our strategic interest, our strategic autonomy, go for it. Whatever you want to deal, do it. But remember, never ever trust China. Case in point, they are building the dam. In next 10 years, there will be a dam. And that dam is going to be a water weapon, a tool in the in the act of war. It can be used to threaten us, it can be used to pressurize us, and it's a direct threat. Unlike what America is doing, China will be using it directly against us. Isiliye, no, never ever think of a tango with China unless you are prepared for this. Okay, coming down. So we have done this. Let's go down to the next news. China and India to resume direct flights, informs India's Ministry of External Affairs. On 14 July, China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi and India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar agreed to restart mutual personal travel of direct flights after a suspension of 5 years. India's Ministry of External Affairs said the two sides agreed to take additional practical steps, including travel to each other's country and direct flight connectivity. Right? So that is what both the countries have initiated. Again, a good restart, but be cautious. Next, we come down to another news of the neighborhood. Pakistan and Bangladesh decide to exempt visa requirements for official and diplomatic passport holders. On 23rd July, Interior Minister Mohsin Naqvi held a meeting with Home Minister of Bangladesh, Jahangir Alam Chaudhry. After the meeting, it was announced that people from the two countries who possessed diplomatic and official passports would be exempted from visa requirements. Interior Minister Naqvi termed this visit as of great significance in strengthening bilateral relations. Isn't it? मतलब काफी दिन से चल रहा है कि suddenly Pakistan and Bangladesh are coming close and they will be interacting, and ISI has already visited Bangladesh, right? So all of this is bound to happen. But the problem is it's going to be a threat for India. Not only a direct threat at the borders, but of course through radicalism as well. तो ये तो होना ही है, but इसको मीट करने के लिए इंडिया को नया पॉलिसी लाना पड़ेगा. आते हैं, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Uzbekistan has signed a trilateral agreement on railway project, right? So पेशावर से काबुल होते हुए तरमेज तक, this is a new agreement on railway project. On 17 July, they inked a trilateral agreement for working on a railway project which will link all three countries. The agreement is known as the UAP railway project. Okay? This project will be connecting Pakistan with Central Asian country, and it will give access to Central Asia to the warm waters, that is Gwadar port of Pakistan. Right? This is what Pakistan has been doing in its outreach to Central Asia. Okay, Pakistan Foreign Minister has advocated for dialogue to resolve disputes at the SCO Foreign Ministers meeting. So, abhi, you already know our Prime Minister has gone to China for the SCO, but at the Foreign Ministers meeting, the Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar ने कहा था कि भाई SCO को एक stabilizing force की तरह हमें देखना चाहिए. It has to have, engagement amongst partners rather than no communication, which is the case between India and Pakistan. But we have been very clear, haven't we? We have been very clear that there will be no talks unless state-sponsored terrorism is stopped. There is no point of talking. The only point of talking would be on the POK issue, right? So, when we are so clear about it and there's an official statement on it, why is it that the Pakistani side still wants to talk to us? That is the question. Okay, on the Pahalgam attack, he said that accusations against Pakistan could have likely escalated into a bigger conflict. Pakistan's stance on resolving disputes via dialogue. तो बार-बार कह रहा है कि भाई हम dialogue करना चाहते हैं. इंडिया ये है जो dialogue नहीं कर रहा है. नहीं करना. कह दिया. Only on particular grounds करना है. Right? कितने बार dialogue करेंगे? कितने बार अमन की आशा की बात करेंगे? और कितने बार terrorist attack होगा? कब तक होगा? So I think it's time, there has to be a Lakshman Rekha that has to be drawn, that you don't cross that unless we talk on state-sponsored terrorism or return of POK. I think it has to be there. Okay, let's come down to the next news, which is war in Ukraine. दो इंटरेस्टिंग डेवलपमेंट है ये भी कि भाई यूएस ने पहले तो जेलेंस्की को बहुत डांट वाट के एकदम डील विल निकाल के बोल दिया कि भाई ये है वो है। उसी समय पे सोचा था ट्रंप ने कि पुतिन भी साइन कर लेगा पीस डील, बट नहीं किया। बातचीत चल रही है अभी भी, एज वी टॉक, कन्वर्सेशन टॉक्स आर गोइंग ऑन टू नो पॉइंट। बल्कि यहां तक आ गए जो एक्स प्रेसिडेंट मेदवेदेव है, उन्होंने बोला है कि भाई न्यूक्लियर रेडी भी है हम, इसी वजह से तो न्यूक्लियर सबमरीन्स ट्रंप ने भेज दिया है। तो अब फाइनली ट्रंप के पास कोई ऑप्शन नहीं बच रहा है, बिकॉज ट्रंप वांट्स टू एंड द वॉर, बट द टॉक्स आर लीडिंग नोवेयर। द टॉक्स आर गोइंग एब्सोल्युटली नोवेयर, बिकॉज बात करते करते यूक्रेन को पेट्रियट मिसाइल्स देने से क्या बात होगी। सो इट्स बेसिकली सेइंग लेट्स टॉक while I keep arming your friend. It's like saying, India, let's talk while I keep giving F-16s to Pakistan. Really? That's not going to help. वही चीज हो रहा है। Trump is sending Patriot missiles while saying, if Putin is going to go for a peace. Why would it go for a peace? On what grounds? And it is successfully, not only managing the war, it is successfully able to hit in new areas. The new oblast has been hit, and it has been carrying on the war. Why does it have to sign a ceasefire on terms that is not fruitful to Russia? That's the point. Nahi karne wala hai Putin, and Trump is not able to see that. So Russia's attacks continue despite Trump's 50-day deadline to Moscow. So on 12th July, US President Donald Trump reached an agreement with the NATO leaders to supply weapons to Ukraine. He explained that the US will send weapons to NATO, which will cover the cost and transfer them to Ukraine. We will send them Patriots, which they desperately need, because Putin really surprised a lot of people. He talks nice and then bombs everybody in the evening. But there's a little bit of problem there. I don't like it. Oh, he doesn't like it. That's why he's giving Patriot. But he's also asking Putin to go and sign a ceasefire deal. On 14th July, responding to Trump's decision to send Patriots, Russia spokesperson Dmitry said that while Europe is covering part of the cost, the flow of US weapons and equipment to Europe continues. On 14th July, Trump warned of imposing severe tariffs on Russia if a peace deal with Ukraine is not reached within 50 days. Kuch nahi hua abhi tak. On 15th July, in response to Trump's 50-day deadline, Peskov, that is Dmitry, emphasized that Russia will evaluate the implication, but until now, Russia has not accepted any US ceasefire proposals. So first, again, let's understand in a structured way. The new US sanctions on Russia. The US sanctions targeted Russia's major sectors. In the financial sector, the US froze 5 billion USD in Russian central bank assets, cut major Russian banks from the Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication, which is the SWIFT, and banned trading in Russian securities. In the energy sector, Russian oil, gas, coal, and enriched uranium imports are banned. In the military and technology sectors, especially in semiconductors, the goods which use US technology are under the sanction. The EU has aligned with US sanctions, although it lags in the energy sector due to the dependency on Russian gas. However, it has pledged to stop imports by 2027. Besides, the EU holds 2/3 of frozen Russian central bank assets, which it projects to use for Ukraine's recovery. Second, the state of sanctions and the Russian response. Sanctions have reduced Russia's oil and gas revenues, placing central bank assets at risk. However, it has not led to a larger economic collapse or stopped Russia from its ongoing offense in Ukraine. According to a report in DW, Russia's GDP witnessed 4% growth in 2023 and 3.6% growth in 2024, fueled by war spending. However, this trend is not expected to continue in 2025 and 2026, with GDP expected to decline below 2%. The effect on Russia's economy has been in the form of shortages in critical goods. Russia has circumvented the sanctions by using shadow fleet of oil tankers and using rubles for yuan. Third, the extent of military aid to Ukraine. The West has supplied Ukraine with a wide range of advanced air defense systems and missiles to counter Russia's strikes. But it has not been enough to succeed in an offensive. The military aid is dominated by US, which provides several Patriot batteries. Meanwhile, the NASAMS, Iris-T, SAMP/T, Crotale and S-300 surface-to-air missile systems have been delivered by several NATO countries. Let's come down to military exercise Talisman Sabre. Now, on 13th July, Australia's exercise Talisman Sabre officially commenced in Sydney. The exercise was initially a joint exercise between Australia and US. However, this year, the exercise involved 19 other countries, including India, Indonesia, Germany, Japan, Fiji, Canada, New Zealand, Thailand, and Singapore, with Malaysia and Vietnam joining as observers. The exercise, the largest drills carried out by Australia, would additionally take place in Papua New Guinea, right? So this is what has happened. This exercise started a day after Australian Prime Minister's 6-day visit to China. Next, Russia's recognition of the Taliban government is a matter of between the two sovereign states. So Russia has formally recognized Taliban government. Pakistan has not done that. When asked, Pakistan said that we haven't formally recognized. It is between the two sovereign states, that is between Russia and Afghanistan. Moving on, Russia, the earthquake that took place in the Kamchatka Peninsula, it is right here. Places in news में important है Kamchatka Peninsula because it was a magnitude of 8.8 earthquake and it is one of history's strongest and took place at 8:25 Japan time. Multiple aftershocks took place because of it. So this is where it took place, 8.8 at the Kamchatka Peninsula. Let's move on. The Thailand-Cambodia border confrontation. So let me first show you the border. Wait. Yeah, this is the border. So if you take a look at Cambodia and Thailand, this area, the Priya Vihar temple and the Ta Muin Thom temple, Ta Muin Thom temple and the Priya Vihar temple, इन दोनों में प्रॉब्लम्स हो रही हैं. चलो समझते हैं क्या हुआ है. ओके, सो बॉर्डर कन्फ्रंटेशन में पहले न्यूज में या व्हाट हैपेंड में आते हैं. 25 जुलाई में, दैट इज द सेकंड डे में अगर देखा जाए, बहुत सारा हेवी आर्टिलरी हुआ है एंड इफ यू टेक अ लुक एट इट, पहले तो दे काइंड ऑफ थाईलैंड ने कंबोडिया के एम्बेसडर को भेजा, कंबोडिया ने इसके बाद थाईलैंड के एम्बेसडर को वापस भेज दिया. इसकी वजह से डिप्लोमेटिक टाइज कंप्लीट खत्म हो गई और उसके बाद से दे हैव कम डाउन टू द डिस्प्यूट मैटर. वॉर शुरू हो गया था, ठीक है, कॉन्फ्रंटेशन शुरू हो गया था. अब विल कम टू द सीज फायर ऑल्सो, बट दिस इज व्हाट इज द स्टोरी. 23rd जून में the border dispute started. ठीक है, कहां पे शुरू हुआ था? It happened because of the two areas, the two temples I've talked about, right, which injured 5 Thai soldiers. The Thai government expelled the Cambodian ambassador and downgraded the diplomatic relations. 24 जुलाई में a Thai F-16 jet bombed Cambodian military targets that erupted near the Ta Muin Thom temple, right? इसके वजह से the violence expanded. On the second day, the military confrontation continued, but Malaysia ने एक ceasefire दिया था जो कंबोडिया ने मांग लिया था, but Thailand ने reject कर दिया था, right? So then China comes in and then US comes in for the ceasefire. Okay, क्या था? Brief background लेते हैं कि भाई रूट जो है वो एक्चुअली में बॉर्डर कॉन्फ्लिक्ट है 817 किलोमीटर बॉर्डर का. 1907 का एक मैप है जो फ्रेंच कॉलोनियल रूल के समय पे डिमार्केट किया हुआ थाईलैंड कंबोडिया बॉर्डर में, जिसमें कंबोडिया कहता है कि ये प्रिया विहार टेम्पल एंड द ता मुइन थॉम टेम्पल जो है वो बहुत सिग्निफिकेंट है. ठीक है, अब 1962 में आईसीजे ने प्रिया विहार को कंबोडिया को दे दिया था और 2008 में यूनेस्को ने लिस्ट किया था प्रिया विहार को एज द वर्ल्ड हेरिटेज साइट. अब थाईलैंड कहता है कि भाई ये प्रिया विहार कंबोडिया का नहीं है, थाईलैंड का है. दूसरा चीज, जब ये शुरू होता है, थाईलैंड एंड कंबोडिया साथ ही साथ अपना डिप्लोमेटिक रिलेशंस को डाउनग्रेड कर लेते हैं. थाईलैंड रिकॉल्ड इट्स एम्बेसडर एंड एक्सपेल्ड कंबोडियाज एम्बेसडर. डिप्लोमेटिक रिलेशंस एकदम लोएस्ट में आ गए. जब आप एम्बेसडर्स को निकाले तो कोई कन्वर्सेशन नहीं हो पाता है. अब जो भी कन्वर्सेशन होगा वो आप डायरेक्टली करोगे, either through appointment, so you're going to send letters, mails, things like that, and then it is phone calls. But ambassador के साथ क्या होता है, आप direct face to face बात कर रहे हो with a representative of the state. So moment you chuck out the ambassador, you expel the ambassador, you have downgraded diplomatic ties. Exactly what Thailand did, right? उसी साथ में एक फोन कॉल लीक हुआ था, बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग फोन कॉल था, दैट इज बिटवीन थाईलैंड्स प्राइम मिनिस्टर एंड कंबोडियाज फॉर्मर लीडर. ठीक है, अब जो थाईलैंड के प्राइम मिनिस्टर है, उन्होंने जो एक्स लीडर को अंकल बोलते हुए थाई मिलिट्री को क्रिटिसाइज किया, कॉलिंग इट द ऑपोजिट साइड, जिसके वजह से थाईलैंड के प्राइम मिनिस्टर को इमीडिएटली हटा दिया गया और बोला गया कि इसको नहीं देखना है, कंबोडिया हमारे इंटरनल सॉवरेनिटी में दखलंदाजी कर रहा है, इट इज इंटरवीनिंग. और इसी वजह से देयर वाज अ पब्लिक आउटरीच. तो बॉर्डर कन्फ्रंटेशन होता गया, पब्लिक आउटरीच की वजह से स्टेट पे ज्यादा प्रेशर आ गया कि वो रिएक्ट करे, एंड दैट इज व्हाई द कन्फ्रंटेशन एक्सपैंडेड. ठीक है, सो देयर वाज दिस स्ट्रॉन्ग नेशनलिस्ट फीलिंग सपोर्टिंग द थाई मिलिट्री as well as the cultural sentiments linked with these two places, which is the Priya Vihar temple and the Ta Muhin Thong temple, जो कि कंबोडिया क्लेम करता है, बट कंबोडिया के पास है अकॉर्डिंग टू द बॉर्डर लाइन देखो एकदम उसी से क्रॉस कर रहा है, बट थाईलैंड कहता है ट्रेडिशनली वो हमारा है. ठीक है, उसके बाद मलेशिया ने एक पीस टॉक्स करने की कोशिश की थी, but then finally China comes in. China hosted the talks between Thailand and Cambodia aimed at restoring, and finally then meeting happened and conditions were created. Malaysia ने फिर से बात किया, US बाद में आया and things was taken care. कई सारे प्लेयर्स थे, सीजफायर प्लान और पीस प्लान मलेशिया का था, सपोर्टेड बाय चाइना. क्रेडिट कौन लेके गया? डोनाल्ड ट्रंप. I'm telling you, by the end of this video, you are also going to write in the comments that Nobel Peace Prize for President Trump. And this is bound to happen. So why don't we just start supporting it? So in the comments you should start writing that कि भाई Nobel Peace Prize दे दो. Let's create that public sentiment. दे देना चाहिए ताकि ये सारे प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व हो जाए. I don't understand why we cannot do that. If we can give it to Obama and we can give it to other people, why can't we just give it to Trump and get it done with? Right? Okay. Next, Cambodia and Thailand agreed to allow ASEAN observers to monitor their disputed border areas in an effort to control the conflict. The decision comes after the exchange of artillery fire and jet fighter that resulted in the death of 43 and displacement of more than 300,000 between the two countries. The conflict continued despite the diplomatic efforts by China, and then of course US President came in, said that there will be no tariff negotiations unless there is peace, and obviously एक ही statement में सब peace आ भी गया, negotiations हो गए. अब आसियान जो है वो वहां पे observers की तरह रहेंगे. आज के दिन में there is no conflict going on between Cambodia and Thailand. Coming down to Myanmar, यहाँ पे भी डोनाल्ड ट्रंप का हाथ है. The Myanmar military lifts the emergency and says that there will be elections in December. Now, this is interesting because अभी भी civil war चल ही रहा है. इस हालत में कैसे elections होंगे, क्या वो fair elections होंगे कि नहीं, किसी को नहीं पता. But that is what he has basically said. So the military junta has said that these upcoming 6 months are the time to prepare and host the election. Now, the election has been criticized by the opposition group, and Western governments have called it a sham, saying that this is amidst the civil war, hosting an election is not a logical thing. वो fair नहीं होने वाला है. ये ना fair होगा ना free होगा, but तभी भी elections किए जा रहे हैं. And elections होते ही you can declare that it is a democratic country, and whoever wins the election, they will hold power. That is what the military is trying to do. Not the first time. They have done it previously also. Okay, in a surprise move, the Washington lifts sanctions on the junta. That is, several Myanmar के junta के जो allies थे, उनको delist किया गया and उनको sanctions उनके ऊपर sanctions हटा दिया गया without any explanation. Now you know where the money will come for the election. Now you know who is going to win the election, and now you know why Donald Trump again should get the Peace Prize. Okay, this comes after Myanmar's ruling military general praised President Trump and President Trump's strong leadership and requested lower tariffs and sanction relief. So even he knew how to handle Donald Trump, right? He said that 40% से 10-20% कर दो, आप ही हो, सब डोनाल्ड ट्रंप इज दी मैन, राइट? तो ये सब बोला, बहुत कुछ बोला, एंड फाइनली हो गया, सैंक्शंस हट गए, राइट? म्यांमार रिमेन्स अ मेजर सोर्स ऑफ रेयर अर्थ मिनरल्स strategically vital to the US in its competition with China, which dominates the global processing. ठीक है, ह्यूमन राइट्स वॉच ने इसको काफी अलार्मिंग या वरिंग का है. सीरियसली क्या वरिंग कर रहे हो? डोनाल्ड ट्रंप है तो सब समझ जाएगा. आते हैं नेक्स्ट न्यूज पे. सो प्रेसिडेंट डोनाल्ड ट्रंप levels fresh threat on Iran's nuclear program, saying that कि भाई अगर वो लोग न्यूक्लियर एनरिचमेंट नहीं छोड़ेंगे फॉर सिविलियन purposes, then US will again destroy their nuclear possibilities if need be. So basically जो चीज इजराइल ने शुरू किया था, अब पता ही है कि यूएस के कहने से ही शुरू किया था, और यूएस रिलक्टेंट था बट आया लेटर ऑन में और फिर से बॉम्बार्ड किया. बॉम्बर से वो जो हेवी बॉम्ब्स जो थे, बंकर बॉम्ब्स, उससे तोड़ा था बहुत सारे न्यूक्लियर फैसिलिटीज. अब ये भी बोल दिया कि अगर वो लोग न्यूक्लियर एनरिचमेंट नहीं छोड़ेंगे तो वही होने वाला है. टॉक्स पे कौन विश्वास रखता है? लेट्स जस्ट थ्रेटन देम, दैट इज हाउ इट्स गोइंग टू वर्क, राइट? बट साथ में यूरोपियन यूनियन ये नहीं करता है. यूरोपियन यूनियन के 3 कंट्रीज जिसे E3 कहा जाता है, ब्रिटेन, फ्रांस एंड जर्मनी, they are continuing the talks with Iran on nuclear because they are the last few members of the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, the JCPOA, जो कि ओबामा के समय पे साइन किया गया था 2015 में. US in the previous term of Donald Trump had withdrew in 2018, right? तो अभी फिर से इन E3 countries, that is Britain, France and Germany and Iran के बीच में बातचीत शुरू हो गई है to come to a compromise on Iran's nuclear aspirations. And this is where Iran has asked that why is that Iran को हमेशा बोला जाता है कि वो डील को फॉलो नहीं कर रहे हैं, on the other side US या इजराइल को नहीं बोला जाता है. So that is what he has asked, and the talks have come. But yes, the E3 countries have also asked Iran not to go for nuclear enrichment, but to list out what other prerequisites that they want. Right? So that is what the E3 and the Iran is having. On the other hand, let's come down to Israel. Israel में क्या चल रहा है? तो in Israel, Netanyahu's plan is to take over Gaza. But the Israel Defense Force Chief of Staff has said कि ये takeover plan नहीं करना चाहिए. So Chief of Staff of the Israel Defense Forces, Eyal Zamir ने कहा है कि भाई there is an opposition of taking over the rest of Gaza, said it would potentially trap the military in the territory and could harm the hostages. PM Netanyahu highlighted that the hostage release so far was a result of diplomatic negotiations and not military action. So that is what the IDF has said. Defense Minister ने कहा है कि भाई मिलिट्री को जो कहना है कहने दो. मिलिट्री वुड ऑपरेट ओनली अंडर द ऑर्डर्स ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट अंटिल ऑल ऑब्जेक्टिव्स आर अचीव्ड. ऑपोजिशन लीडर यार लापिद ने कहा है कि पब्लिक इज नॉट इंटरेस्टेड इन कंटिन्यूइंग द वॉर एंड इट हैज कन्वेड दैट टू द प्राइम मिनिस्टर. The UN referred to the speculated Israeli plan to expand military operations in Gaza, deeply alarming. At the Security Council, the UN Assistant Secretary General said Gaza is and must remain an integral part of future Palestinian state. So this is a major worrying sign that the way Netanyahu and his ministry, his government is bombarding Gaza in the name of return of hostages. जब पता है कि प्रीवियस हॉस्टेजेस डिप्लोमेटिकली आए थे तो मिलिट्री क्यों यूज किया जा रहा है? गाजा में ऐसे किस तरीके से बॉम्ब किया जा रहा है? ये गलत तरीका है. दिस इज समथिंग व्हिच एवरी कंट्री इज नाउ रिकॉग्नाइजिंग. बट अगेन देयर इज अ स्टेलमेट दैट हैज हैपेंड बिकॉज ऑन द अदर हैंड हमास ने कहा है कि हम कभी भी डिसआर्म नहीं करेंगे जब तक एक सॉवरेन पैलेस्टीनियन स्टेट ना बन जाए. सो दे हैव आल्सो कम टू अ पॉइंट दैट डिप्लोमेटिकली बात होती है, हम कुछ हॉस्टेज छोड़ते हैं, देन फिर से बॉम्बार्डमेंट होता है. तो इससे बेटर ये है कि भाई हम ये लड़ाई कभी ना छोड़े, राइट? कितना बम्बार्ड करना है करो, वी विल नॉट स्टॉप, वी विल नॉट डिसआर्म, बिकॉज अगर हमने डिसआर्म कर दिया तो पैलेस्टीनियन स्टेट तो बनने से रहा. एटलीस्ट ये वॉर चलने देते हैं ताकि कभी ना कभी पैलेस्टीनियन स्टेट तो आए. सो दैट इज व्हाट दे हैव टॉक्ड अबाउट. आर्म्ड रेजिस्टेंस कैन नॉट बी रिलिंक्विश्ड एक्सेप्ट थ्रू द फुल रेस्टोरेशन ऑफ अ नेशनल राइट्स, foremost amongst them the establishment of an independent, fully sovereign Palestinian state. Right? उन्होंने ये भी कहा है कि with Jerusalem as its capital, that's going to be a problem statement. Right? So that is what Hamas has pointed out. Now, in this light, couple of developments. France has become the first country to talk about recognizing the state of Palestine. तो मैक्रॉन ने कहा है कि भाई France will officially recognize the state of Palestine at the UNGA in September. It is the first major Western country to move into that direction. France अभी सोच चुका है कि यूएस के खिलाफ जाने वाला है वो, right? So this is what France has done. Interestingly, UK has also taken the same step. Israel has of course criticized this. China ने कहा है कि भाई two-state solution रहेगा. They are not going to go ahead and recognize Palestine as such, but France has taken a strong stand on it. UK government also said that they will also recognize the Palestinian state if Israel disagrees to a ceasefire. Right? So again, September month में we will see a lot of Israel-Palestinian issues, especially in light of two major Western countries taking a step to recognize the Palestinian state. Right? That is second. Now, New Zealand ने कहा है कि New Zealand ये नहीं follow up करेगा. New Zealand will not recognize the Palestinian state in light of what UK is doing. Interestingly, the former Prime Minister has criticized the current government's hesitance and said that New Zealand is lagging behind other Western nations like UK and France and Canada who have recognized or who are about to recognize the Palestinian state. So unless Israel understands or reads what has been written, that it needs to accept a ceasefire, stop the ongoing bombardment of Gaza and start having a dialogue, diplomatic means for the return of hostages, this is going nowhere. Netanyahu cannot continue the war. Other countries are now in a position to recognize a Palestinian state. So at this point of time, Netanyahu ko lag raha hai ki just because Trump is there and he has given a blank check to him, he can continue doing it. But remember, after 4 years, it is not going to happen. On the other hand, countries recognizing Palestinian state is going to be for a longer period of time, which is going to be a problem. Domestically also, Netanyahu is facing a huge backlash because people are tired of war. They want a resolution. They want the hostages to come back. And if in that case, they want a dialogue to start. So there is a lot of pressure, both internationally and domestically, which Netanyahu is not recognizing. He is, kind of just like, ठीक है, हो रहा है, चल रहा है. But unless you recognize that things are happening for a longer impact, it will be too late when you realize it. And that is what is going on between Israel and Gaza. Okay, in that region, there's a new development that I want you to focus on because news mein ye miss out ho jayega otherwise, which is the Druze-Bedouin clash in Syria. अगर आप न्यूज़पेपर पढ़ रहे हो तो you would know that it has been going on for some time now and आज भी न्यूज़पेपर में इसको लेके आया है. So what is happening? 13th July को clashes broke out between the Druze. The Druze is an ethnic group, ठीक है, छोटा सा group है. And the Bedouin are the Arabs. They are the Arab groups, again, who have been there for a long time in this region, the Levant region, बहुत साल से हैं. In the city of Suwaida in southern Syria. Suwaida को mark कर लेना, बहुत बार news में आ रहा है. The clashes erupted following the kidnapping of a Druze merchant on 11th July. The kidnapping was followed by retaliatory abductions. On the same day, the Syrian Ministry of Interior expressed concern and stated that in this context, the Ministry of Interior confirms that the units of its forces, in coordination with the Ministry of Defense, will intervene directly in the region to resolve the conflict, stop clashes, impose security, prosecute those responsible for the events, and refer them to the competent judiciary. On 14th July, Israel began attacks against the Syrian government forces, advancing towards the city of Suwaida to protect the Druze community. Israel's Minister of Defense, Israel Katz, said the attacks will continue unless the government forces withdraw. On 15 July, Syria's Ministry of Defense declared a ceasefire following claims of an agreement with Suwaida's notables and signatories. However, the Syrian ministry announced that the Israel-backed armed groups resumed attacks against Syrian security forces. On 16 July, Israel launched attacks on the Syrian Ministry of Defense and the presidential palace in Damascus, killing 3 and wounding 34 others. Now, क्या है? Sectarian violence को समझते हैं. Syria is a multi-religious country with a Sunni majority and minority of Christians, Alawites, Druze and other communities. Despite being a minority, the Alawites gained political prominence with the rise of the Assad family, which ruled Syria for nearly half a decade. During the pro-democracy protests against Bashar al-Assad regime in 2011, Assad gave it a sectarian color, terming the protest as an Islamist insurrection backed by foreign powers. The protesters were largely composed of the Sunni majority and the security forces were dominated by minority Alawites. This sectarian division grew with the progress of the protests into a full-fledged civil war, and the violence perpetrated was viewed as a sectarian violence. When the civil war ended in 2024 with the Sunni Islamist rebel group, the Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, forming an interim government, the fear of persecution among the religious minorities in Syria grew, and violence broke out between the Alawites and the Druze community, fueling sectarianism. अब आते हैं Druze community in Syria पे. The Druze community is an ethno-religious group that emerged from the Shiite Islam faction during the 11th century. The Druze population predominantly reside in the southern province of the Subeda. The province has witnessed a long-standing feud between the Druze and the Bedouin tribe, with the outbreak of periodic violence. Following the fall of Assad regime, targeted attacks against the Druze increased. In April, the Druze town of Jaraman near Damascus was attacked by Sunni groups after an audio criticizing Prophet Muhammad attributed to a Druze leader was circulated. During the Syrian civil war, the Druze community formed militia to fight against the Assad regime. These militias were neither disbanded nor incorporated into the Syrian army despite efforts. As the Druze community remains suspicious of the new government and its ability to protect the minority communities, these particular militias are now active. Okay, next. The involvement of the Syrian government and its fallout. The Syrian government's response to the clashes has drawn Israel's intervention, which has widened the ambit of the combat. Second, it has heightened suspicion among the Druze against the new government. They believe that the Syrian security intervened to support the Bedouin tribes because Bedouin is Arab Sunni. Third, it demonstrated the government's inability to curb violence and the lack of control over unwieldy territories, the Suveda region. Fourth, Israel's Druze connection. Israel houses the third largest population of Druze after Syria and Lebanon. Interestingly, Druze can participate in the Israel Defense Forces. They reside predominantly in northern Israel, including the Israel-occupied Golan Heights bordering Syria. The Druze community in Israel is loyal to the state and serves in the military. And the Israeli state is supportive of and loyal to the community. Israel had previously intervened for the Druze minority in Syria. In May, Israel launched several attacks across Syria, intervening on behalf of the Druze community. On the attacks, Israel reiterated an identical reasoning that it views the Druze as a political ally. Additionally, it stated that the intervention is geared towards keeping its borders with Syria demilitarized. However, Israeli strikes previously concentrated in Suveda has now expanded to Damascus. So, the conflict is between the Druze and the Bedouins. To sum it up, the Druze have always been against, it was against Assad government also. It was it was against the opposition forces of the Assad government civil war के समय पे. बाद में इनको कोशिश किया गया था सीरियन मिलिट्री में लाने के लिए, पर हुआ नहीं. एंड जब ये फॉल आउट हो गया और आज के दिन एक सुन्नी लेड गवर्नमेंट है, तो बेदुइन जो सुन्नी है, इट इज नाउ बिकमिंग अ सुन्नी बेदुइन वर्सेस ड्रूज conflict. In this, Israel has also stepped in. Israel is supporting, of course, the Druze community, and the Bedouins are being supported by the interim government of Syria, which is where the clashes have emerged. ठीक है, नया conflict है, अभी भी चल रहा है Suveda में. Constantly people if you read the newspaper, you will read that conflict has taken lives of so many people, right? it is ongoing in the region right now as we speak. Okay, now I just wanted to highlight two more implications. First, the instability in Syria. The new Syrian government has called for national unity and domestic peace and vowed to protect the minorities. However, its inability to incorporate non-state groups and to stop sectarian violence has raised doubts over its effective control. A conflict between two subnational ethno-religious tribal groups have turned it into an interstate conflict between the newly formed Syrian government, which basically has been cornered. Second, Israel's larger endgame. Israel's immediate motivation is the protection of Druze and keeping its borders with Syria demilitarized. However, given the history of being geographically surrounded by hostile neighbors and then who have housed Hezbollah and Hamas, Israel aims to neutralize this threat once and for all. It does not want another HTS-led group coming in, which is going to be a threat for Israel. So it basically wants to neutralize that threat coming in from Syria at this point of time. A, loyalty towards Druze. B, any kind of future threat. Abhi se, just nip it in the bud. Right? That is what is going on. Now, let's come down to Africa. Some news of Africa before we come down to the bilateral news between India and Indian Prime Minister's visit. So, what is happening in Africa? France ends its military presence in Senegal. On 18 July, France officially ended its military presence and handed over its last two bases in Senegal. Over 350 troops left the bases, bringing an end to a 65-year French military presence in Senegal. This withdrawal follows similar moves across West and Central Africa, including in Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. France is reinventing partnerships in a dynamic Africa. We are turning a page in the military history of two countries, right? So this is what has happened in Senegal in Africa. War crimes occurring in Darfur region, says ICC. On 12th July, the ICC, that's International Criminal Court, at the UNSC reported that there are reasonable grounds to prove war crimes against humanity is being committed in Sudan's Darfur region. ICC Deputy Prosecutor presented findings to the UNSC citing over 7,000 pieces of evidence from the survivors who fled to Chad. Okay, next, M23 rebels sign a ceasefire deal in Qatar. On 19 July, the DRC and the M23 rebel group signed a ceasefire agreement in Qatar, ending months of deadly fighting in eastern Congo. The deal marks the first time the two sides have directly agreed to a ceasefire. The declaration of principle includes promises to cease attacks, refrain from hate speech, and halt territorial advances. A final peace agreement is set for 18th August, and it would reflect a US brokered deal signed between DRC and Rwanda. The African Union has welcomed the deal. Next, Kigali and Kinshasa, that is again Rwanda and the DRC, agreed on an outline for regional economic integration framework to be launched within 90 days. Because that is what the conflict was because of M23. Now both countries are also coming for a economic cooperation. The agreed principles guide the framework covering cooperation on sectors such as energy, infrastructure, public health, mineral supply, and national parks. Mineral wealth exploitation is a key driver of the conflict between Congo's military and Rwanda-backed M23 rebels. In this context, the two countries have affirmed that each country has full sovereign control over the utilization, processing, and export of its natural resources. They have also resolved to ensure that armed groups do not receive funding through the mineral trade. Okay, next, IMF's new World Economic Outlook report, higher growth forecast for emerging markets. On 29 July, IMF published its World Economic Outlook report, which provides analysis of the economic situation. It raised its 2025 GDP forecast for emerging and developing economies to 4.1% from 3.7% to 4.0% for 2026 from 3.9%. This was mainly due to China's upgrade to 4.8%, driven by strong early growth and easing of US-China tariffs. Global growth was revised to 3% for 2025. Unlike most individual economies, Russia and South Korea were downgraded to 0.9 to 0.8. The IMF warned that the current pause in the imposition of new trade restriction is welcome, but the concern is that it may not last. 50% tariff, right? Okay, now we come down to three important bilateral visits that happened this particular last month. That is, one is to Maldives, Argentina and Brazil by the Indian Prime Minister, right? So इसको एक बार cover करेंगे. Again, क्या हुआ, उसका impact. यही इसी format में हम cover करते रहेंगे. We start with Maldives first. So on 25th July, our Prime Minister landed in Malé, that's Maldives. He was welcomed by the Maldivian president. On the same day, he held bilateral meetings with the president, emphasizing Maldives' role in India's neighborhood first policy and the Mahasagar vision. Both leaders unveiled a new building of the Ministry of Defense of the Maldives and released a stamp to commemorate the 60 years of India-Maldives relation. On the same day, India and Maldives signed 4 MOUs and various agreements. MOUs covered various sectors, including the UPI, digital public infrastructure, in fisheries, meteorology. India also extended to the Maldives a line of credit worth 4,850 crore rupees. Additionally, India and Maldives have agreed upon terms of reference for the initiation of negotiation for signing an FTA. As well as on the 26th of July, that's next day, our Prime Minister was the guest of honor at the Maldives 60th Independence Day celebration. Okay, first, if we talk about the relation, India and Maldives ties can be traced back to medieval maritime trade. Such cultural exchanges, particularly from the states of Tamil Nadu and Kerala, shaped countries' language, cuisine and boat building traditions. A strong political foundation underpins relations between the two countries. Diplomatic relations between two countries were established in 1965. In 1988, India launched Operation Cactus to militarily intervene to prevent a coup to overthrow the then President Maumoon Abdul Gayoom. In 2008, India also supported the country's transition to democracy. Second, recent tensions between India and Maldives. The India Out campaign was launched in 2020, notably led by the then opposition leader and the current president, Mohammad Muizzu. In January 2024, derogatory remarks were made by the Maldivian cabinet ministers against India and Prime Minister and the Indian Prime Minister, which triggered a diplomatic confrontation between the two nations and saw Indians boycotting Maldives. Subsequently, a majority of the remaining Indian military troops withdrew from the country. Another flashpoint has been the closeness of the current government with China in terms of economic and security cooperation. Third, India's neighborhood first policy and the economic assistance to the Maldives. Now, our policy guides our diplomatic strategy towards our neighbor. In 2020, India gave a 100 million grant USD and a line of credit of 400 million USD for the Greater Malé Connectivity Project. In 2021, India provided 50 million USD defense line of credit for the development and maintenance of the Uthuru Thila Palu Naval Harbour. In August 2024, India financed and handed over water and sewerage infrastructure projects across 28 islands, built at a cost of approximately 110 million USD. Further, India also provided emergency financial assistance by rolling over 100 million USD of Maldivian treasury bills and established a currency swap framework of 400 million and 3,000 crore of INR. Additionally, India helped to restore the water supply in Malé in 2014 through Operation Neel. During COVID pandemic, India ensured the steadfast delivery of vaccines under the Vaccine Maitri initiative. The bilateral trade, India was the second largest partner in 2022 and largest in 2023. In 2022, it was 176.5 million USD, right? This is the background to the relation. Next, we'll come down to Brazil. Nothing really important apart from this when it comes to the Maldivian visit. It was more of a signaling of a visit, just to signal that things are better between India and Maldives. Our Prime Minister's visit was a signal that we are ready to rebuild with Maldives. Whatever happened has happened in the past. Our soft power approach continues with Maldives. Next, we'll come down to the visit to Brazil. So, on 6th of July, our Prime Minister visited Brazil as part of his 5-nation tour. He also participated in the 17th BRICS Summit in Rio de Janeiro from 6th to 7th July. On 8th of July, he held meetings with Brazil's President Lula da Silva in Brasilia. In over 57 years, this was the first bilateral state visit of an Indian Prime Minister to Brazil. Both leaders affirmed to expand the India-Mercosur preferential trade agreement and set a target to increase bilateral trade to 20 billion USD over the next 5 years. On the same day, India and Brazil signed 6 MOUs and agreements, including MOU on cooperation for the sharing of successful large-scale digital solutions for digital transformation, agreement on cooperation in combating international terrorism and transnational organized crime, MOU on cooperation in renewable energy, MOU on agricultural research between Brazilian Agricultural Research and the Indian Council of Agricultural Research, agreement on the exchange and mutual protection of classified information, and MOU on cooperation in the field of intellectual property between DPIIT of India and Secretariat of Competitiveness and Regulatory Policy of Brazil. Also on the same day, a joint statement was adopted, according to which India and Brazil have acknowledged the urgency of collaborating under 5 priority pillars: defense and security, food and nutritional security, energy transition and climate change, digital transformation and emerging technologies, and industrial partnerships in strategic areas such as pharmaceutical industry, defense equipment, mining and minerals, and oil and gas sector, including research, exploration, extraction, refining, and distribution. Brazil's highest national honor was also conferred upon our Prime Minister, that is the Grand Collar of the National Order of the Southern Cross. India-Brazil partnership at multilateral forums indicate that the diplomatic, we have been engaging in BRICS, United Nations, G20, World Trade, International Solar Alliance, Global Biofuel Alliance, and Coalition of Disaster Resilience Infrastructure. India and Brazil share a strong trade relation. In 2024-2025, the bilateral trade reached 12.2 billion USD. What does this actually mean then, the entire visit? It basically talks about deepening of bilateral partnership under priority areas. The 5 priority pillars indicate where the major focus would be, where the revival of ties would be, and this is where the next 5 years would have the priority of. The second is BRICS is a binding factor. India and Brazil seek to achieve equitable global governance for a multipolar world order, and the way, again, the tariff game that's being played by bully USA, this is where it brings them together. If you note that the COP is also going to happen very soon in Belém in Brazil, and for which India has been invited, obviously. And again, you will see the bond, the good relations between India and Brazil coming up, the bilateral relations getting more focused. So that is what it is talking about, and this is going to pave the path for India's footprint into the Latin America region. Okay, next we come down to Prime Minister Modi's visit to Argentina. So on 4th of July, he visited Buenos Aires, which is in Argentina, for a 2-day visit, right? It's the first bilateral visit to Argentina in 57 years, and this is where our Prime Minister addressed Argentina as a key economic partner in Latin America and a close collaborator in the G20. Both countries signed a series of MOUs in different sectors, including defense cooperation, where India offered maintenance, repair and overhaul services for Argentine helicopters through HAL and Bharat Dynamics, which would help Argentina to reduce dependence on Western defense logistics. They also discussed joint production of certain defense mechanisms. In the agricultural sector, they signed an agreement to form a joint working group for easing regulatory barriers and exploring new trade routes. India opened its vast agro markets to exporters of Argentina while aiming to get greater access to the dairy and meat products of Argentina. In the critical minerals and energy sector, India reiterated its partnership with Argentina for sourcing lithium, copper and rare earth. Furthermore, Argentina opened investment opportunities for Indian companies in shale oil and gas in the Vaca Muerta basin. In trade and investment, India proposed the expansion of India-Mercosur preferential trade agreement to include pharmaceuticals, IT, and green technology, and further simplifying customs and reducing tariffs. For public health outreach and pandemic preparedness, Argentina expressed its interest in adopting India's digital health infrastructure like CoWIN, eSanjeevani, and Ayushman Bharat digital mission. Now, background पे थोड़ा सा आते हैं. Now, first let's talk about the history. India and Argentina established the foundation of bilateral relations in 1949. Argentina was among the few countries to recognize India's sovereign status. Since then, the relation has grown steadily. Initially, the relationship was based on shared values in the NAM, that is the Non-Aligned Movement, and cooperation in culture, science, and education. With the liberalization of both economies, economic relations strengthened after the 1990s. The India-Mercosur Preferential Trade Agreement was signed in 2004 to further strengthen the economic ties. The relationship was further strengthened through the 2010 collaborations in space and Argentina's entry to the International Solar Alliance in 2018. Second, trade and investment between India and Argentina. In 2022-2023, bilateral trade between India and Argentina reached around 6.4 billion, where India exported pharmaceuticals, automobiles and chemicals and imported soybeans, oil, minerals and leather. Indian companies like TCS, Tech Mahindra and Sun Pharma have had a presence in Argentina since the mid-2000s. Trade relations are further strengthened by the 2004 India-Mercosur Preferential Trade Agreement, which provides easy market access in Latin America and trade concessions in the region. Third, India and Argentina's trade in the agricultural sector. Argentina is India's top supplier of soybean oil and the third largest supplier of sunflower oil. India imports about 542,000 tons of sunflower oil from Argentina. Other than oil, India also imports pulses, cereals, and finished leather from Argentina. Due to India's limited production of sunflower oil, Argentina's edible oil plays an important role in ensuring India's food security. Next, critical minerals and energy cooperation between India and Argentina. Argentina holds world's second largest lithium reserves and is part of the lithium triangle along with Bolivia and Chile, and serves as an important partner for India's ambitious electric vehicle and battery storage goals. These long-term energy transition goals have increased India's interest in sourcing lithium, copper and rare earth minerals from Argentina. In Catamarca province of Argentina, Mineral Exploration and Consultancy Limited, in collaboration with the Khanij Videsh India Limited and Hindustan Computers Limited, is conducting a brine-based lithium exploration of over 15,000 hectares. To get LNG from Argentina's Vaca Muerta reserves, India has signed a parallel MOU. Though Argentina is home to vast energy reserves, it does not have the fiscal or infrastructure prowess for energy production and is heavily dependent on global actors like India for energy collaborations. Fifth, India and Argentina's defense cooperation. India's emergence as a defense exporter has led to stronger military dialogues, such as training and naval cooperation. In the murky waters of geopolitics, Argentina is considering India as an alternative to traditional arms suppliers like Russia and the West. With this, we come to an end to the episode of Around the World, July edition. So I have covered what is exactly happening, सारा जो अभी चल रहा है, साथ में जो important news है, and finally मैंने bilateral जो visits थे उन पे focus करते हुए जो important brief background है, क्या हुआ है, MOU, सारी चीजें आपको इसी episode में as well as the PDF में सब कुछ मिल जाएगा. If you still have any doubts, feel free to reach out to me. With this, I'll take your leave. I'll see you in the next episode. Till then, bye.